Hey everybody. So today's kind of a boring video, if you will, visually speaking. I wanted to use this opportunity to just kind of talk about my overall objective and what my plans are for the next year here. And if you've watched any of my previous videos, you'll know pretty much what I'm doing is I'm just kind of documenting and following along in the life of myself and my wife here on this property. And I don't know if I've ever given the background on it, so I think that's a good opportunity, or this is a good opportunity to do that. So this property that we're constantly working on here, we're fortunate enough to get given to us by my parents as a wedding gift. And it's 6 acres. It's not much. There's no utilities on it. There's nothing like that. And it was pretty much just a raw chunk of land my entire childhood. This is where I grew up. It's my childhood home across the street. And this property my dad had bought in, I don't know, maybe 30 years ago. And we never really did anything with it. It was just kind of, it was just a raw chunk of land when I was younger. There was nothing over here. It was just a field. I used to come play over here when I was a kid. We used to have airsoft wars when I was younger, 20 years ago. And over the years, we kind of developed it, not really. There was a bridge project maybe 2 miles down the road, and part of that bridge project was actually getting rid of a lot of sand from the bridge. They were making the bridge longer and the road shorter. And what happened is, I'm in road construction. My dad has friends that were in road construction their entire life. It just so happened that the project manager for this job was a friend of mine, and they needed to get rid of all the sand. So we ended up working a deal out with them where we would take all the sand for free because it saved them money, because it was such a close dump site as opposed to hauling it and paying a dump fee somewhere else. And in return, they would drop off a dozer so that we could kind of strip the topsoil off the ground and push the sand in and make a parking area. And that's pretty much the extent of everything that my parents ever did with the property. Is we put that sand in there and kind of made a parking spot, and other than that, that's all they did. So about 7 years ago, when my wife and I first started dating, she has always been a barrel racer, but she had actually sold her horses because she was getting ready to graduate college and didn't know where she was going to end up, so she didn't have the opportunity to take the horses with. After her and I started dating, she ended up moving in. She quickly got back into barrel racing and the horse scene and started boarding nearby. Well, as her and I continued to date, we made the decision to talk to my parents about being able to build a small pasture out here and keep the horses here, just to save some money on board. Easier access for her where she was boarding was, at first I think it was about 25 miles away, then it got a little closer and it was about 15 miles away, so she was spending quite a bit of time every day driving. And what we did is we built the pasture on their side initially, built a nice one, and everything was going well. And then as we got closer to that first winter, my dad and I realized that the horse pasture was directly on top of the geothermal, and if we were to leave the horses there, they more than likely would pound the frost down so deep into the ground that it would destroy the geothermal system. So we quickly had to create another pasture on this side of the road to get them out of the way. Well, in order to do that, we also had to run an electrical line in order to keep their water from freezing. So we hurried up and did that late fall one year. We were fighting winter. Actually, the shelter that's in their pasture we had built and augered it into the ground, and we ended up having to cut those poles off at the ground level with a chainsaw and jack the thing up, put it on skids, and then I drug it over there. And as I was dragging the shelter over there, which is the last thing we had to do, snow was flying. There was about a ½ inch to an inch of snow. It must have been late October, early November when that happened. I think it was November because it was around deer season. So we drug that over, got the pasture set up for the winter, and that's all we had. Both those buildings that you saw in the beginning of the video, they weren't here yet. There was nothing, just a pasture. So another year went by, And our school district ended up consolidating with another school district. And that brown building that we call the small barn, or the old barn, was a storage facility for the industrial arts building. And what it held was just different pieces of sheet metal or half-inch thick metal or whatever, just different materials for the welding class. And the building was getting demoed because, like I said, the school district had combined with another and they got a bunch of money, so they were building a whole new school district. Luckily, again, we knew the people in charge of the construction project, so on Memorial Day weekend, my dad and I ran over there, jacked the building up, put it on an equipment trailer, put it behind my truck, and I towed her home at about 4:35 in the morning on Saturday, Memorial Day weekend. Then we kept going down the line. My wife and I got married, and at our wedding, my parents gave us the deed to the property. They said, well, you guys are using it for the horses, and the plan the entire time was for me to buy my parents' house eventually. They were going to retire out to their lake place. So they gave us the property, and we've been continuing to develop it ever since. I wish I had more photos from prior so that I could show you just how far this 6 acres has come, but it's quite staggering. But so a lot of what you're seeing on this channel right now is me working on continuing to develop this property and maintain it. And I have big goals and big dreams for what I want this property to be, but the amount of work that's required to get it there is insane. I mean, if you just look right now where we're driving out here, you see my pickup parked in the middle. This whole area, in order to get it to look this nice and to make it a usable arena like this has taken an incredible amount of effort. This sand was initially just brought in here for that bridge project. It wasn't very flat. There was big chunks of concrete in it. There was rock everywhere. We've had to pick rocks and drag and grade this with the four-wheeler and the drag and then the tractor and just do an absolute mountain of work to maintain this thing. And I've been in road construction for 14 years now. And my previous job with my previous employer, I was a construction manager, but in the field. So I would routinely work 10, 12, 14-hour days. A lot of the time I was an hour, if not 2 to 3 hours away from home. So what that meant for me is that I would work 5 or 6 days. It was never 5. It was always 6 days a week during the summer. Gone for long hours. I never had any time to do anything around here. Basically what would happen is on Saturdays I would get done with work around 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. If I was hours away, I'd drive home. I might get home at 5 o'clock. I would either hop in the tractor or the lawnmower, cut the grass, and just do the bare minimum to maintain it. So as far as developing the land, it just wasn't happening at my other job. Well, about 2 years ago, I was fortunate enough to get a new career, still as a project manager in road construction, but for another firm where I'm home every night, and it's more of an office-based position. So when that happened, everything kind of changed. I was able to start working more on developing the property and slowly just kind of start cleaning things up. Then the next thing hit, which was my parents had decided it was finally time for them to start building a house at their lake property so that they could move out there and we could begin looking at purchasing their current home, this home. So what happened is all the access that I had to heavy equipment, like the excavator that you sometimes see and the tractor that I'm currently operating right now, disappeared. The equipment went out there to help build the house, and so did I. So anytime that I had last year, which would have been my first free summer to start working on developing it more, disappeared very fast. It was also a transition year for me and my wife too. It was the first summer that her and I really had to spend together since we started dating, and so we kind of enjoyed it. So what happened now is this year, I'm able to dedicate more time, and I was able to purchase my dad's old tractor because he purchased a new one. I'd fully intended on purchasing a tractor in the spring, but he actually ended up finding a really good deal on another used tractor, so he bought that, and I bought his old tractor from him, which is the one I'm driving now. So now that I have equipment and I have time, my goals and dreams of the development are starting to come true. And by development, I mean essentially what I want to do is I really don't have a grand design of what I'm thinking yet. I have a design in mind of building a trail around the property line and making it flat enough and level enough that my wife is able to use it for riding the horses on and loping them or running them, breezing them, I believe is the correct term. And also just for myself to ride the side-by-side around or walk. The other thing I want to do is I want to get everything cleaned up enough so that I can maintain the property using the tractor or the lawnmower. I looked at a video from last summer when I had the tractor, and actually if you go back and look at my channel, it's on there. It's I took the tractor for one weekend just to kind of clean up the manure pile and get some work done around for maintenance wise, and I ended up blowing the tire on the tractor, so I didn't even get that much work done, which was disappointing. But I looked at that video and I just saw how tall the grass was and how much disarray everything was, and I told myself, alright, this year I've really got to focus on getting this place cleaned up so that I can maintain it better with the equipment that I do have. And like I said, I'm in road construction, and when you're in road construction, you do a lot of land and property development. Heavy civil construction is probably the better term. But so I'm very used to clearing land and grubbing and grading and site prep and making that all work. You know, I started as a laborer, worked my way up to a foreman, superintendent role, then to a construction manager and project manager. So I've been a part of every facet of the work. The only difference is when you're doing it for yourself, you don't have a full crew to work with you, and you don't have all the equipment in the world. You're kind of stuck with what you have. And I'm fortunate enough to at least have a tractor and a side-by-side that I've worked my butt off in order to get. But even then, I don't have all the implements or attachments in the world to make this easy. For example, I would love to have a claw grapple bucket in order to move debris around and wood around and hay around, but I don't. So I have to make do with what I have. So this year, I'm just really focusing on cleaning up the areas and getting branches out of the way, rocks out of the way, grading things, removing stumps, just doing the bare bones, just getting it cleared and opened up. Because I know realistically, as a one-man operation with limited amounts of time, that's already quite a bit for one person to bite off. And that's what you're seeing happening in this video actually too, is it's that small work that happens during the week after a work day or on a weekend that you don't see, the unglamorous stuff. Picking up branches, picking rocks out of the grass. You know, like I said, this other side of the property wasn't used for anything really. It almost turned into a boneyard in some aspects where things just kind of got dumped over there. So that's what you see me doing right now, is going, just picking up old chunks of rebar, old wooden blocks that are hiding in the grass. Things that if I tried to mow it once the grass came up with, I'd be breaking the mower. And that's all this video is. It's just that routine, mundane maintenance of going around, cleaning things up, getting it ready to be maintained. So if you've stuck around this long, I just want to say thank you. I hope you like and subscribe on the channel, and I hope you continue to follow along on my journey as I continue to maintain and develop this property into something that, again, I don't have a final design in mind, but in my mind somewhere I think, I don't know, maybe some sort of garden or patio way, or I've got some ideas of projects, but I'm going to keep those secret for now until I get to the point where I'm able to actually start working on it. So again, if you're still here, please like, comment, subscribe, and follow along to see how my journey goes over the next coming decade, let's say.